When I found that I was a prisoner, a sort of wild feeling came over me. I rushed up and down the stairs, trying every door and peering out of every window I could find. I was helpless. When I look back after a few hours, I think I must have been mad for the time, for I behaved much as a rat does in a trap. I sat down quietly and began to think over what was best to be done. The Count knows everything. He knows that I know everything, so I have to be very careful with my moves. When I heard the great door below shut and knew that the Count had returned, he did not come at once into the library, so I went cautiously to my own room and found him making the bed. This was odd, but only confirmed what I had all along thought, that there were no servants in the house. This gave me a fright, for if there is no one else in the castle, it must have been the Count himself who was the driver of the coach that brought me here. This is a terrible thought, for if so, what does it mean that he could control the wolves, as he did, by only holding up his hand in silence? How is it that all the people at Bistritz and on the coach had some terrible fear for me? What meant the giving of the crucifix, of the garlic, of the wild rose, of the mountain ash? Bless that good woman who hung the crucifix round my neck. It saved me when the Count tried to bite me. Midnight. I have had a long talk with the Count. I asked him a few questions on Transylvania history, and he warmed up to the subject wonderfully. In his speaking of things and people, and especially of battles, he spoke as if he had been present at them all. He spoke like a king, and he grew excited as he spoke. He spoke about the tribes and how the ancestors of Dracula won and wrestled control over the tribes. He walked about the room, pulling his great white mustache and grasping anything on which he laid his hands, as though he would crush it by main strength. The Count then asked if a man in England might have 2 solicitors or more. I told him he might have a dozen if he wished, but that it would not be wise to have more than one solicitor engaged in one transaction, as only one could act at a time, and that to change would be certain to militate against his interest. I sensed he is planning something.
I shall illustrate. Your friend and mine, Mr. Peter Hawkins, from under the shadow of your beautiful cathedral at Exeter, which is far from London, by a place at London. Let me say frankly, I would have even approached some local here, but no local interest might be served save my wish only. Now, suppose I, who have much of affairs, wish to ship goods, say, to Newcastle, or Durham, or Harwich, or Dover, might it not be that it could with more ease be done by consigning to one in these ports?
I answered that certainly it would be most easy, but that we solicitors had a system of agency one for the other, so that local work could be done locally on instruction from any solicitor, so that the client, simply placing himself in the hands of one man, could have his wishes carried out by him without further trouble. The discussions went on for a long time.
Have you written since your first letter to our friend Mr. Peter Hawkins, or to any other?
I answered no.
Then write now, my young friend. Write to our friend and to any other, and say, if it will please you, that you shall stay with me until a month from now.
Do you wish me to stay so long? I asked, for my heart grew cold at the thought. What could I do but bow acceptance? The Count saw his victory in my bow. The Count warned me.
I pray you, my good young friend, that you will not discourse of things other than business in your letters.
As he spoke, he handed me 3 sheets of notepaper and 3 envelopes. I could notice his sharp canine teeth, so I determined to write only formal notes now, but to write fully to Mr. Hawkins in secret, and also to Mina, for to her I could write in shorthand, which would puzzle the Count if he did see it. When I had written my 2 letters, I sat quiet, reading a book whilst the Count wrote several notes. Then he took up my 2 letters and placed them with his own, and he left briefly. I leaned over and looked at the letters, which were face down on the table. One of the letters was directed to Samuel F. Billington, number 7, The Crescent, Whitby, another to Herr Lutner, Varna. The third was to Coutts and Company, London, and the fourth to Herren Klopstock and Billruth, bankers, Budapest. The second and fourth were unsealed. Suddenly the Count returned back. He said,
Let me advise you, my dear young friend, nay, let me warn you with all seriousness, that should you leave these rooms you will not by any chance go to sleep in any other part of the castle. It is old, and has many memories, and there are bad dreams for those who sleep unwisely.
I lay on my bed, placing my crucifix near to my head. When he left me, I went to my room. After a little while, not hearing any sound, I came out and went up the stone stair to where I could look out towards the south. I came near my window and peeped below. What I saw was the Count's head coming out from the window. I did not see the face, but I knew the man by the neck and the movement of his back and arms. Suddenly, I could see the Count crawling over the wall upside down like a lizard. May once more have I seen the Count go out in his lizard fashion. He moved downwards in a sidelong way, some 100 feet down, and a good deal to the left. He vanished into some hole or window. I knew he had left the castle now, and thought to use the opportunity to explore more than I had dared to do as yet. I went back to the room, and taking a lamp, tried all the doors. They were all locked, as I had expected, and the locks were comparatively new, but I went down the stone stairs to the hall where I had entered originally. I found I could pull back the bolts easily enough and unhook the great chains, but the door was locked, and the key was gone. That key must be in the Count's room. I must watch should his door be unlocked, so that I may get it and escape. I went on to make a thorough examination of the various stairs and passages, and to try the doors that opened from them. 1 or 2 small rooms near the hall were open, but there was nothing to see in them except old furniture, dusty with age and moth-eaten. At last, however, I found one door at the top of the stairway which, though it seemed to be locked, gave a little under pressure. I tried it harder, and found that it was not really locked. I was now in a wing of the castle further to the right than the rooms I knew and a story lower down. From the windows I could see that the suite of rooms lay along to the south of the castle, the windows of the end room looking out both west and south. The windows were curtainless, and the yellow moonlight, flooding in through the diamond panes, enabled one to see even colors, whilst it softened the wealth of dust which lay over all and disguised in some measure the ravages of time and the moth. My lamp seemed to be of little effect in the brilliant moonlight. Later, the morning of May 16th. God preserve my sanity, for to this I am reduced. Safety and the assurance of safety are things of the past. Great God, merciful God, let me be calm, for out of that way lies madness indeed. Suppose I must have fallen asleep. I know I was not alone in the room. The room was the same, unchanged in any way since I came into it. I could see along the floor, in the brilliant moonlight, my own footsteps marked where I had disturbed the long accumulation of dust. In the moonlight opposite me were 3 young women. When I saw them, for, though the moonlight was behind them, they threw no shadow on the floor. They came close to me and looked at me for some time, and then whispered together. They were pretty and attractive, and one of them I could recognize, I couldn't recollect. All 3 of them whispered among themselves. I was afraid to raise my eyelids, but looked out and saw perfectly under the lashes. The girl went on and came close to bite me. I could feel the soft, shivering touch of the lips on the supersensitive skin of my throat, and the hard dents of 2 sharp teeth, just touching and pausing there. But at that instant, another sensation swept through me as quick as lightning. I was conscious of the presence of the Count, and of his being as if lapped in a storm of fury. As my eyes opened involuntarily, I saw his strong hand grasp the slender neck of the fair woman and with giant's power draw it back, the blue eyes transformed with fury, the white teeth champing with rage, and the fair cheeks blazing red with passion. With a fierce sweep of his arm, he hurled the woman from him, and then motioned to the others, as though he were beating them back. It was the same imperious gesture that I had seen used to the wolves.
How dare you touch him, any of you? How dare you cast eyes on him when I had forbidden it? Back, I tell you all. This man belongs to me. Beware how you meddle with him, or you'll have to deal with me.
The fair girl, with a laugh of ribald coquetry, turned to answer him.
You yourself never loved. You never love.
On this the other women joined, and such a mirthless, hard, Soulless laughter rang through the room that it almost made me faint to hear. It seemed like the pleasure of fiends. Then the Count turned, after looking at my face attentively, and said in a soft whisper,
Yes, I too can love. You yourselves can tell it from the past. Is it not so? Well, now I promise you that when I am done with him you all shall take him.
Are we to have nothing tonight?
said one of them, with a low laugh, as she pointed to the bag which he had thrown upon the floor, and which moved as though there were some living thing within it. For answer he nodded his head. One of the women jumped forward and opened it. If my ears did not deceive me, there was a gasp and a low wail, as of a half-smothered child. The women closed round, whilst I was aghast with horror, but as I looked they disappeared, and with them the dreadful bag. There was no door near them, and they could not have passed me without my noticing. They simply seemed to fade into the rays of the moonlight and pass out through the window, for I could see outside the dim, shadowy forms for a moment before they entirely faded away. Then the horror overcame me, and I sank down unconscious.